All right, good evening, Natalia. Thanks for being here. Thanks for waiting. We're going to begin the class now. How are you? Let me know if everything is okay, please.
Hello, I'm fine. Only I am hear you with the
Okay,
volume.
it's with echo. All right, let me solve that problem. Okay, give me a second.
Mhm.
All right, it should be good now. You're going to let me know, please, Natalia.
Yes.
All right, good. Now let me check this, but as I'm giving the introduction, okay, I'm going to take a look at this. Today we have to start with a new course. We're going to join the platform on Google Classroom. We're going to join, or actually not join, we're already in the platform. We're going to assign the new set of assignments plus the quizzes and the final test for this new course. All right, so I'm going to check this later on. And also we have to finish some details right from the previous class. So as I'm doing this, I want to know if you have any questions. What I'm going to do now is that I'm going to share first the link so that you can join the new course, and I'm going to be assigning everything on Pearson. All right. But as I'm doing that, let me know, please, if you have any questions, any doubts, comments related to the previous course, related to anything that you have in mind. Let me know, please, Natalia.
No, only I am trying to study embedded questions today, and I'm not sure if I can understand at all, but I was review the information about this topic. And that's all, yes, only that.
Yes, today we have to finish also that, right? The 15 minutes we're going to use first are going to be for doing that, right? Because we only worked on questions, but now we have to convert those questions into embedded questions, okay? And actually, you don't have to make it complex, Natalia, because actually an embedded question is just a real question, right? What's your name? How old are you? Do you like ice cream, right? Do you watch TV, right? It's just using those real questions as part of other questions or as part of sentences to make it more formal, right? It's not the same if you are in the United States and you say, "Hi, where's the bathroom?" Right? It's very informal, it's too direct, it's something that some people are going to be offended by that. Okay, if you treat them like that, that's going to be, of course, not offensive in a bad way, but it's like you are his or her friend, right? It's a lot of trust over there. So in order not to do that, right, embedded questions are just used, Natalia, to make your questions more formal and more indirect. And being indirect in terms of English is being formal sometimes. Okay, and being polite, right? So instead of saying, "Hey, where's the bathroom?" Right, you say, right, "Good morning. By any chance, do you know, right, where the bathroom is?" So, do you know where the bathroom is? Or could you please tell me where the bathroom is? That little change, all right, is just making your sentence, your question in this case, more polite, more accessible, more indirect, because if you are formal, you don't want to be direct, right? You want to be indirect in that way, at least in English, because in English, you don't have formal words. The only way to be formal in English is to be indirect and to use the word please, right? Because you don't have these two use that we have in Spanish, right? You for your friends and you for, right, people that are older than you, right? That's something we have in Spanish, but it doesn't exist in English. So if you want to be formal and respectful in English, you have to play with the words, all right? Because you don't have formal ways to refer to that, right? You have that, I believe, in Japanese, you have that in Spanish, you have that in French as well. But in English, you don't have a way to be polite. You don't have a word to be polite with people. Okay, so embedded questions is a way to be polite. Okay, so try to understand like one real question inside other questions or inside other statements just in order not to be too direct. All right.
Uh-huh.
And changes are something we're going to do now. As first, if you check the chat, you already have the link to join the course. But as you're going to see, the only thing that you do to change a real question to an embedded question is to, of course, put it after another question or a statement. And instead of question order, you have to use sentence order. That's it. Because in questions, remember, there's always inversion, right? Are you Natalia? That's a
Mhm.
question. It's incorrect if you say, could you tell me if are you Natalia? That's
Mhm.
incorrect, right? You have to say, could you please tell me if you are Natalia, right? So instead of are you say you are. And it happens the same for all the questions, right? If your question is, do you like ice cream, right? Your
Mhm.
embedded question would be, could you please tell me if you like ice cream, right? You don't say if you do, if do you like ice cream? That's incorrect. Okay, so the only rule that you have to
Mhm.
memorize there, Natalia,
Mhm.
is that your real question has to be a statement now. It's not going to be in question order. If you
Okay.
do that, that's it. Yeah,
Mhm.
tell me, Natalia.
And yes, this is I can understand the the main of the topic about the embedded question. And yes, and this is the information that I remember. And in the other hand, I was thinking about that topic that we are review on the last class about the time, the tense of the verbs, and uh, if is past participle, is it continue, and and do you have any recommendation for check again as a resume of this topic, or how can I practice more about the different conjugation of the verbs and the tense in the sentences in the questions, so like this?
All right, good. So that one, it's good that you're interested in that. Again, actually, that's just going to be with me. The only way I can have, of course, here to help you is making you practice like this, right? I'm making you ask, write some questions, write sentences in different tenses. But again, the only way of practicing that, Natalia, first, a very interesting tool is that you have this product for you, right? And remember, you don't have to do only what I tell you to do. Remember that you can check previous lessons, right? If you go to your product, you can open the previous courses. And if you go to the course section, remember you have assignments, you have course,
Uh-huh.
then you have something else, gradebook, right? If you go to course, you can open any of those lessons if you want, right? And remember that the lessons that you're interested in, Natalia, are in grammar. Okay, so you can check. One way of practicing is go to grammar by yourself, check the theory one more time, and practice that. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is
Mhm.
just exploring a little bit. For example, I'm going to start from this course on, I'm going to make you do some not only short sentences, all right, but you're going to start writing paragraphs, okay, complete
Mhm.
paragraphs. And when I tell you to write the paragraphs, you can take the advantage and you can practice there, because I'm going to tell you, write any paragraph you want about any topic you want, but you
Mhm.
have to use these words and these words, right? So you can write sometimes paragraphs in present, sometimes in past, sometimes in future. Or I'm telling you that because one way is making me know, all right, how you're doing with that, so I can give you my corrections. But in general, again, if you want to learn more about that grammar stuff, it's just checking the theory here on Pearson and exploring a little bit on the internet. If you don't want to buy any books, because actually that's another way, you can buy some intermediate or advanced grammar books, and there you have, right, a better way to practice. But sometimes for some people can be better because they can read at any time, right, without the computer. But that's up to you, Natalia. Of course, that's another
Mhm.
method. You can buy some books or check
Mhm.
the information on the internet. And if you want to check information information on the internet, my recommendation is to always go to Cambridge or Oxford. Okay, they have the web pages. So I'm writing, you must know it. Okay, Cambridge and Oxford, right? They, if you write Cambridge and then grammar lessons or Oxford grammar lessons, you're going to find a lot of, all right, material. Even the European Council. All right, let me check this. All right, learning.
Should I learn first grammatical topics in Spanish first, or no, it's
Mm,
necessary?
no, actually, it's not. Many people, they just learn about grammar by another language, right? You don't need to know because actually it's not the same. They have differences, right? And Spanish has its own details. And actually, you're going to know things over there that are not going to actually they're not going to be useful for English. All right, but of course, if you want, you can do it, but in the sense of a necessity to learn English, no, because again, they don't have, we don't share all the tenses. Okay, we use different tenses. Spanish, of course, has more tenses than English. And again, the way you conjugate, the rules that you use, in a certain way is, of course, good to know the grammar of your own language, but it's not a necessity. All right. And sometimes even it's a good thing, Natalia, that you can try to learn the language as if it was your first language, right? Of course, that's why also it's a good idea that first you learn first speaking, right, and practicing like this empirically. And after you have the practice of speaking and writing, then you can learn some theory to check if you were doing correctly, and then you can correct your mistakes, right? So, but what I'm trying to say is that you don't need some theory or some background over there. It's better if you learn the way they are going to teach you that in English. All
Okay.
right, good. Now, I'm assigning this. Then remember, we're going to have 8 days, right? So this is going to be the first one. Then this is the second one, third one, fourth one, right? Fifth one, sixth one, eighth one, and the fourth. It means that September the 4th is the last day to complete or write the assignments and everything for this new course that is A9. All right, remember that you have the 2 attempts plus the model. I'm going to do the same for the quizzes now, but again, as I'm doing it, again, you can keep if you have some other questions or comments. But again, recommendations for grammar, actually, first, keep practicing. Again, here I'm going to try to make you write things. Today we're going to work with the speaking practice, and you have to try to say as many things as you can. Try to write as many things also as you can, so I can give you my feedback. All right, because that feedback is going to be important for you to know how you're learning, if you have more details that you have to correct, and well, little things like that that you have to know. Okay. And also, of course, a good way of practicing that, I don't know if you practice, for example, outside the classroom, right? How are you related to English outside this class, Natalia? How often do you practice? Do you have some people with which you can speak English? Do you practice with someone? Do you have some extra activities besides this class that are in English or close to that?
Yes, for now only I was watching some movies in English with text in English too, and
Mhm.
listening podcasts in English.
Okay, great,
But
great, very good.
nowadays, maybe 2 or 3 times per week.
Okay, yes, that's a lot actually. Yes, that's great. Again, and sometimes it's great to watch movies, but you know that you need a specific time for that one, right? Sometimes, and I believe it's great that you're doing that. You're listening to podcasts because you don't need a specific time for that one, right? You can do that on the bus, right? Walking to somewhere, so you don't need a specific time to practice. You just listen right to that in any place at any time that you have some extra time over there, right? So it's great. It is very good. And what about some interaction? Do you know some people with which you can speak English?
Not for now.
Okay, all right. And have you thought of looking for people to practice? or is not
Ah,
something that you have in mind?
eh, in the past, when I try to improve my English, I have friends living in Europe, for example, and sometimes we do a video calls, but we can't time now. Uh, and maybe it's for this reason, but no, it's always it's maybe one time per month or like this. No,
All
it's
right.
usually.
Okay, yes, no, I mean, it's good if you can go back to some of those, well, elements that you used before to practice with someone, because again, always, right, one of the best things to learn any language and to keep improving your skills is always social interaction, right? Why? Because
Mhm,
sometimes you can express yourself better, or you're not that afraid, where some people can be even more afraid if you are with friends. But the idea is that you have to, right, try to use that with someone, because movies, right, and the podcast are going to be good for some vocabulary and for some listening, of course.
mhm.
But to practice your production, right, it's always good to have someone to talk to. All right,
Yes.
take advantage, because now, right, we live in an era that is just possible, right, to make friends around the world. So you have a lot of apps, right? They can be just app to make friends around the world. You have a specific apps to get people to practice a certain language, right? So
Mhm,
there's always, I think, a way. Again, I'm just mentioning that because you mentioned, right, how to improve that in grammar. But
mhm,
besides that, also the production, as soon as you have something clear over there in how you can produce and you can improve that, also the grammar is going to be easier. All right. But again, it's
mhm.
something that you have to do at the same time. But again, I think that's it. I finished with everything I had to assign. I finished by sharing the new platform, right? We're going to be using on Google Classroom. Everything is set. So now we can begin, and this is going to be actually one practice for today, Natalia, because we already covered this lesson, but you're going to be telling me something in English, and this time you are going to do it for at least 3 minutes. All right, so you're going to be telling me something for 3 minutes, and
Mhm,
you're going to be improvising elements. You're going to be, all right, adding some things, and you can, of course, invent or make up something. But again, this is just to practice and to make you try to use more words. But before going to the lesson that is a review and then to the practice, I want to know if you have any other questions or comments to go to it. Let me know, please.
No, not for now. Only in the platform. I don't know if my progress that's okay or no, it's enough for my level. Because I was checking that always I have maybe 80, 90%, but I can uh, to get 100%
No,
until
look.
now.
All right. No, look. Again, in terms of what the program accepts, the level of what the program asks is, let's say, very low, because the idea here, more than just showing that you can do right perfect assignments on Pearson, is how you can show me here how you develop yourself, how you show yourself, how you speak, how you write. Okay, because sometimes in the platform it's just too mechanical, and it's good because, of course, it evaluates your level. But again, the thing that actually is going to be more important is the interaction that we have here. The level that you got, this 90 in total of all the models, and this 80 over here actually is good. I believe that is between, even it's above the average. All right, above the average. What I'm saying is that some people, they don't spend too much time by working on the assignments. That's negative. They just take the quiz right at last moment or something without practicing, or I don't know, and they get to have 60 or sometimes 50, 70. So again, the average or right scores that some people have, because they don't pay much attention to the platform, is again between 60 and 70. All right, let's say that's the
Mm,
average. But again, everything that is above that is considered to be good. You don't need to get
mhm,
100. Of course, if you want to get it, it's just by practicing more and more. but what we expect you, all right, I believe that you are on that average and above the average, all right, and that's always
Mhm.
positive. But again, here the thing again, more than those numbers, is that you can always let me know if some of those elements were not clear for you. You have to let me know so that we can practice that in class one more time. All right, that's the idea.
Mhm.
Because again, here, of course, as we're learning, it's impossible to get 100 if you are taking that for the first time and it's the first time that you see the contents. And because of many things, of course, it's not impossible, but it's not expected for, all right, for the majority, because again, it's new. And that's okay, again, because that's part of the progress of learning. But again, the thing here, Natalia, again, remember, is that you can, for example, if you don't understand something, anything that you see, remember that you can take screenshots. All right, so I can
Okay.
explain that to you, and you can be sure that you're understanding very well what you had to do or why it was a mistake. And also remember, right, you can at least take or write down the exercise. What you can do, all right, and this is the last thing before going to the practice. Remember, this is what you can do. Okay, so one element, and again, this is just to let me know, if you don't take the screenshot, try to always memorize these first elements that you have over here and the type of exercise that you're doing. Okay, if you tell me, for example, it
Mm.
was model C, C1, and it was pronunciation, all right, then it's going to be easier to find it. I'm telling you that because if you get to have any problems or if you don't understand something, anything over there, it's important that you can let me know. All right, but again, that's the most important thing over there. But in terms of the numbers, again, we're very good. All right,
Okay.
so let's then go to this, and one more time, this is just a review, and we're going to take advantage today for practicing this that we know. We know about the past continuous. We already practiced not a few classes ago, but we have to review this to be sure that you get it and to, well, to be sure that you're going to be now in this practice that I told you, use these 3 minutes of just telling me things in past. All right, but my first question that I asked you before, and let's see how much you can remember about that, Natalia, what can you tell me about the difference of these two elements, right? I was running last night at 8 p.m. and I ran last night at 8 p.m. Remember that, of course, one is going to be continuous, but remember that both are finished actions, right? Both are
Mhm.
finished actions, both happen in the past and both finished in the past. So that's not the difference, right? What is something important that we need to know here, Natalia? When do we use I was running and when do we use I ran?
I understand between the two sentences, the difference is when you say I was running is because the action is continue, and when you say I ran is because the action is finished at 8 p.m. And when you say I was running at 8 p.m. is because you continue running to this time. I'm not sure if that's okay, but I understand that.
Okay, yes, the last part was better, right? At the beginning, I was not sure, but with the last
Mhm.
part, the elements that you add, I think it is better, yes. But I would say here that actually more than this finished at this time, we can say actually that this started at 8 p.m. and perhaps it
Ah,
finished, right? Sometime
mhm,
after. But yes, this at 8 p.m. in the past, it continued, right? It happened before, it started before 8 p.m.
mhm,
It was happening at 8 p.m. and it continued after 8 p.m., right? But
mhm,
all of those actions are still in the past and they don't have a contact with the present, right? They are always in the past. So good. And in stories, right? Remember, we talked about that. How do you use the past continuous when you're telling a story, when you're telling something to someone?
mhm. When you talk about the action that is happening and uh, another action happen at the same time, and you use while or another adverb for interrupt or for talk about the other action.
Okay, I think we're good. Yes. And when something was happening, we can mention two things happening at the same time, right? I was doing this while you were doing that. Or you can use the simple past to show the interruption or just to show things that happened, right? As you were doing something else. So, yes, great. So far, we're good. Okay, remember again, this is something that we covered. It is a review. Let's
Mhm.
keep going. All right. This formula shows what we were saying and what you told, right, Natalia? This is a continuous, or this was a continuous action in the past that started before 8 p.m., continued at 8 p.m., and, right, well, it continued even after this time. But this
Mhm.
one is very definite, right? I ran at 8 p.m. It means that this action, right, happened at this time. But of course, it finished, right? It happened at that time. Perhaps it started at that time, but the idea is that also it finished, right? We're not putting emphasis on the continuation of the action, just that it happened
Mhm.
at that, right? Perhaps only for 10 minutes. You started at 8 p.m. and you finished at 8:10 p.m. Okay, that can be perhaps the thing.
Mhm.
But that's not the main idea of this tense, right? It's just a list of things that you can mention that you did, right? For example, first I went to this place, second I did that, and third I called to this person,
Mhm.
right? So a set of specific actions. Now, we also know about the past continuous. We're not going to read the definition one more time. We also know the conjugation. Remember what we said yesterday, right, Natalia, that if it's a continuous tense, we always use the verb to be, right? Always. If it's present continuous, the verb to be in the simple present. If it's past continuous, the verb to be in the simple past. If it's present perfect, right, continuous, how do you use the present perfect? With have or has plus the verb in the past participle. So the verb to be has to be in the past participle. If it's in the future, after will, you use the base form. So be has to be in the base form, right? If it's with other models, all models use the base form. So the verb to be is going to be in the base form, right? So remember, if you have a continuous tense with ing, you always need the verb to be, right? In this case, I, he, she with was, and we, you, they with were, right? Those are rules again that we know, but again, if you get to have questions, let me know. And this is what you were saying, right? One way of using the past continuous is using the past continuous plus when and something that interrupted that action or that simply happened as you were doing that. All right, so I was studying for my exam when you called me. Okay, so again, I'm just giving a quick summary, all right? Let's say walkthrough so that we can remember, we can review. But again, everything here should be clear. And if you get to have any questions,
Mhm.
we're going to go back to it, all right? This is the main structure, right? This is the very basic structure. Past continuous when simple past, right? I was passing classes when it started to rain, right? Perhaps it's not interrupting your action, but it started to rain and you're just telling that, right? Or
Mhm.
when it started to rain, comma, I was passing classes, right?
Mhm.
So it can be in any order. Remember also that rule. When it's in the middle, no comma. When is at the beginning, you use a comma before the next part. All right?
Only with
And this
when
is what
or
we already
another
explained.
word?
You can
While.
use many other ones. But with while is going to be both with past continuous, right? It's
Ah,
just that in this lesson, all right, in this lesson, they are just putting emphasis in when.
ah,
Okay, that's why they
okay.
say past continuous with when. But
Mhm.
you can use with after, before, while, as soon as, the moment, the minute, by the time. You can use many expressions, 10, 20 expressions. The thing is that after that simple past or past continuous idea, it depends if you're going to use another idea in the past continuous or if you're going to use an idea in the simple past, right? And with the past
Mhm.
continuous, as you said, you can use while, right? Past continuous, while, past continuous. But if you use the simple past, you can say right? I was doing, right? I was doing my homework, right? By the time I don't know, right? You screamed, all right, and I heard you. So again, you can use by the time, and in that case, by the time is going to have the same meaning as when. All right, so you have many different expressions, but they are going to have like the same meaning as when or some variations. But again, it depends on what you want to say. All right, but in this specific case, they are just showing us that we have to use when to show that something was happening and then something else happened. All right, then this is what you were saying, and actually, this is something that we're going to do now. But as it's only you now, Natalia, is you and you're going to tell the story. All right, and I'm going to try. I'm not try. I'm going to take notes, and perhaps I'm going to ask some questions. All right, but this is how this is going to work now, Natalia. And again, before that, you're going to ask any questions that you got. You're going to have like 2 or perhaps even 3 minutes to first prepare yourself. Okay, you're going to use your notebook, you're going to open a Word document, I don't know, right? But for 3 minutes, you don't have to say anything, you're just going to prepare something. Okay, and you have to prepare a story. You don't have to write it because I'm not going to read. I'm only going to hear what you're going to say. Okay, but it has to be 3 minutes. I'm going to be using the timer. If you finish before, you have to continue saying anything. You have to improvise. All right, you have to try to speak for 3 minutes straight. So try to tell me a complete story from the very beginning until the end. Try to play with the words. Again, we didn't spend much time in the lesson because it's something that we already covered. But again, if you tell me now that you need to practice something, you're going to let me know. But again, the story has to be complete. Try to use different verbs. Try to use different situations. And again, in order to be sure that you're using everything correctly, try to do right the things that you have in mind. Try to for the preparation, Natalia, only write keywords. Don't write the entire story because you're not going to finish and you're not going to read. Okay, you don't have to read. So only keywords. Okay, what you're going to talk about? My last trip, right? Last trip. Then you can write just keywords like friend, then dog, then museum, then something like that. All right, or some verbs: visited, saw, then where, studying, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that you have that or those elements to remember what you wanted to say and to keep, all right, a line of your story, right? Because everything has to be well connected. And also my recommendation, because I'm going to give you a general feedback at the end, try to use also connectors or transitional words that you must know, right? Like first, then afterwards, next to that, however, yet. Okay, try to connect your ideas so that it is going to be complete. Those are my main recommendations. I'm going to be taking notes for everything you're going to say, but first again, prepare yourself for 3 minutes. Then when you finish, then you're going to speak for 3 minutes, telling me one story. I give you my feedback and I ask some questions. I don't know if you have questions about that or about this topic that we covered before starting. Let me know, please, Natalia.
The story is in general in past. I have to use when, past continuous, like this, not necessary.
Yes, I mean, it's expected that at least you try to structure some ideas with what you have here. Not everything, but because of course it's not going to be natural, right? If you're saying this every time. But yes, everything has to be in past. Not with this structure, but you have to use your own ideas. And in the middle of that, you can use this one time, 2 times, or something like that. Okay, but also remember that you use, if you remember the time we covered this, you use the past continuous as the context of your story. right?
Mhm.
I was doing this. I was walking on the street when I saw this person, and we decided to talk about this and that, and he told me about his projects, and we decided to continue, right, talking. So we went to this cafe over there. We asked for this and that. We were eating, we were drinking something, and then we realized that this happened. Someone called us, and we continued, right? We went there. So the idea is that your story, right, has a line and something keeps happening. And as you're telling your story, as I was doing now, you have to use sometimes past continuous, sometimes simple past, all right? And again,
Mhm.
you have to connect all those ideas, not only with when, right? You can use other connectors if you see that they are going to be better for your story. But that's going to be
Mhm.
up to you, all right? The way you do it is going to be okay. But again, it has to be natural, it has to follow a line. Remember that it has to make sense, right? If you're saying something,
Mhm.
the thing that you say after that, right, of course it has to follow that idea. But that's it. I don't know if you have any other details before having the time to prepare ourselves. Let me know, please.
No.
All right. So I'm going to be with the timer. Let me open it. Okay. So first, please, let's have the 3 minutes. Let's prepare everything. I'll tell you when it's time, but also you have the timer over here. Okay. So in 3 minutes, please, we start with your story.
Mhm.
All right, so we have those 3 minutes. Now, again, I'm going to first, I'm going to take notes, all right, but I'm going to be hiding that until you finish so that we don't pay attention to that part and you continue, all right? So again, I'm going to play this, and for 3 minutes, all right, you have to tell me your story, all right? Right now, that's not that much. We're going to try to extend that little by little to 4 minutes, 5 minutes, six, and in the future, even if we can, we're going to have practices of 10 minutes of you speaking. All right. I usually we have a course here that is only for some people that ask for the courses that is advanced writing and advanced speaking. All right. And those courses are only with presentations, like 10 minutes. All right. Like 4 presentations in 8 classes and 15 minutes. All right. Of only you
This is
speaking
the
and
most hard, I think.
yeah, it is. It is. But again, the only way to improve with that is
Mhm,
just making mistakes and practicing because again we can learn a lot of theory and elements, but the only way to improve that is just by doing it. Okay, so let's begin with these 3 minutes. It can be a challenge, but do your best. I'm sure you're going to do it. Okay, but again, I'm here to help you out with the details. I'm going to identify the mistakes and all the details that you have to improve. Okay,
mhm.
so let me stop first sharing my screen. I'm just going to share the clock so you only see the time.
Mhm.
All right, so let's begin, please, Natalia. I'm going to, all right, turn off my microphone. If you, my recommendations always for speaking, all right, I always tell this to people. Remember, don't try to remember specific words. If you don't remember a word, don't try to remember that word. Just try to say another word or change the topic and say something else. All right, it's a
Mhm.
mistake to try to remember something that you don't remember. People are like, and because of and they want to find that word. No, don't do it. If you don't remember, go to another thing. Okay, say something else. Don't try to remember the word. That's the worst mistake. All right. If you don't know how to say something and you have that idea over there, don't try to say that thing that you don't know how to say. Try to say that in your own words. All right. Try to be simple. That's always a good idea. If you have some complex ideas and you are sure that you know how to express that, do it. All right. And again, even you can just do it. If you're going to make mistakes, it doesn't matter. All right. The idea here is not that you don't make mistakes. You have to make mistakes. But the idea is that you little by little, right, you feel more confident, that you are more fluent as you're speaking, even though it can be simple, even though you can have some mistakes, it doesn't matter. All right. The idea is that you feel little by little more comfortable as you're speaking. Because if you have that, again, every other detail, it's just going to be simple and that's easy to fix. All right. So
Mhm.
again, feel confident, say what you have in mind. If you have forgotten something, don't try to remember that. Go to a different thing. And if you remember later on, you can go back. All right.
Mhm.
Have that
Mhm.
in mind, please. Try to play with every word you have written. And well, I stop then. I'm going to turn off my microphone. Please start as you are ready, Natalia. When I listen that you start, I'm going to start with the time. Okay? You may begin,
Okay.
please, when you want.
Mhm. Okay.
Yes, so begin. You start, you speak, and I start it.
Okay. I was waiting. Okay. Some years ago, when I was more young, I was dancing with a group of people. We dance typical dance of Peru in the south of Peru in Puno with a religious festivity here. The name of this festivity is Fiesta de la Virgen de la Candelaria, and we practice a lot for all the year for this specific time. For example, each February, we traveled to Puno for dance for the Virgin. It's like promise that you have to with the Virgin about your your religion. I'm Catholic, and I practice this type of custom of my country because I like, and it's a great moment for show your faith of the Holy Mary. Um, for example, I was dancing for 3 years because you have to dance for 3 years, like for show your faith and take a promise. And in the last year that I traveled to Puno for dance, we were around 300 people dancing for 1 week. We danced on the stadium. We danced on the streets of this city for many kilometers. It's like a sacrifice. And it's a contest with another groups that travel from Lima, from Arequipa, from another cities for contests. And I remember that we was waiting the results in Puno, the final results, and we won the contest, the third place of the contest, for our for the way that we are dancing in this contest. I like this type of contest because it's not only dance. We have more meaning between, and I think it's very fun too, because we use we dance at the same time. We are dancing with a music band next to us, and we dance for many time, for many hours in each day, and for many kilometers. And I remember we have a lot of stomachache problems and headaches, and because the city is very high. And for example, in Lima, we are on the, I think, 100 meters under the sea, and Puno is very high, maybe like in Bolivia, and people from here get used to this type of weather or this type of height, and it's more complicated for us dance in another place like this, and even is more sacrifice for us. And that's why.
Perfect. Very good. Yes. Again, I didn't stop you because actually the idea is to make you speak more and more. You use more time, and at least for now it's good. All right. Sometimes we're going to have some activities with limits of time. In that way, I'm going to ask you to stop. But here the idea was to produce and produce and produce. All right. So it's great. I'm just taking the last set of notes. All right. And I'm going to show you and give you my feedback. But in general, it's great. I want you to do that. All right. I want you to get engaged with what you're saying. I want you to want to say more things. That's the idea, right? If you feel comfortable by speaking, if you are doing right something that you enjoy doing, it's always better. All right. So great. This is the last thing. Okay, so I'm sharing my notes with you, and let's give the feedback. All right. In general, in terms of the past, I think everything was good. My main recommendation, as in the previous one, and here I just wrote, I think, one or two, is the ED. right? Remember that when you're using the ideas in the past, try to make that more noticeable, because sometimes you were giving the ideas and they were in the past, but they seemed to be just like in present, okay? Because the ed at the end was not that present in the way you pronounce the word, okay? That's the general recommendation for past, because in general the past, the way you were using it was good, okay? Just be careful with the ed. But I'm going to go now with the feedback, all right? Here, you say we practice. Also here, remember, you said that, how do you read this word? Let's read this verb, please, only one time.
Practice, practice. Practice.
Exactly. That too at the end, right? Practiced. Exactly. So one more time, please. Practice.
Practice.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. That has to be present over there. That's going to improve your all right, your communication in terms of past a lot. But here, that's not the mistake. That's good. Here you say we practiced a lot for all the year, close to that. But if you say for all the year, it's not going to be good. Here, if you want to say that it happened, all right, throughout the entire year, you can say during, all right, during the whole year. That's one way of saying it. Because if you say for all the year, it's not going to be that natural. It's directly translated from Spanish, but in English, it's better if you say this. Okay, we practiced a lot during the whole day, right? The whole year, sorry. That's going to be it. Then this one is good, but if you say Catholic, that's going to be Spanish, all right? You have to say Catholic, Catholic in the first part. And this is like, Catholic. One more time, please.
Catholic.
Catholic. Exactly. So it's in the first part, all right? You're a Catholic. Then a
with
great moment.
Forcing a Catholic.
Exactly. The stress has to be here. That you're Catholic. All right. Here, a great moment for show your, right? But remember, if you say for, it has to be for showing. But if it's purpose, in your example, it was purpose, so it has to show. Exactly. So remember, if it's a preposition, ing. If you don't use a preposition, you need infinitive to show. The same here, right? For show your faith, right? But it show, all right? Then the last year that I travel also to Puno, but how it was in past. So how do you read this in past?
Traveled.
Exactly, right? So last year, or the last year that I traveled to Puno, so that is going to be very important. Good. Now here, how do you read this word?
Stadium.
Close, but remember the it's more like a, so stadium.
Stadium.
Exactly. And if it's a public place, it's better also if you say at the stadium. All right, let's repeat that one, please. At the stadium.
At the stadium.
Great. And it's a contest. Sorry, this is good. But before, your sentence was different. I mean, it was something else. So if you give one complete idea and then you give another complete idea, you need a subject. Okay, so an impersonal. So you have to say, and it is or it was, right? Because of your context, right? It was a contest about this and this, right? About dancing, right? And the best, right, dancing group or the best dancing choreography will win that, right? So again, I'm just making that up, but here we need the, this is called impersonal pronoun, okay? It. Then remember this mistake. I don't know if you remember this. What is the difference between another and another? Do you remember these two, right? Other and another. When do we use other and when do we use another?
Another is for singular, other is for plural.
Exactly. You're going to have few exceptions only if you say the other, but that's something else. But in general, okay, besides the exceptions, it has to be other over here. Okay, so from other cities. You said we was, right? But it has to be
we were.
And not waiting the results. If you say waiting the results, that's going to be incorrect because that's going to be like Spanish. You always say waiting for something.
Okay.
Okay, so we were waiting for the results. Okay, so let's repeat this, please.
We were waiting for the results.
Exactly. Okay, you don't say, for example, hey, you have to come, I'm waiting you, right? I'm waiting you. That's incorrect, right? You
I'm
say,
waiting
I'm
for you.
waiting for you. Uh-huh.
Mm,
Okay, so you always wait for something or for someone. You don't wait someone or you don't wait something. Okay, always
okay.
wait. Then, because not is only dance, right? That's like Spanish. In Spanish, that's correct, right? Not is only dance. It can be okay. But here, it has to be with the impersonal pronoun, then negative and subject. It is not, right? But because it is not only dance or dancing,
Okay.
okay? Because it is not only, and then you continue with that. Then,
Dancing or not dance.
yes, if you're talking about that as an activity, it's going to be dancing. Exactly. It's not only dancing, right? It's also this and that. You mentioned other activities. Then you said, and then you corrected yourself. Then you said for many kilometers, right? But first you said we dance for many time, right? But time is uncountable. Many is only for countable, right? So we say much time.
Much. Okay.
And it was past, right? So it had to be we danced for much time, or much is more British. Here you can say
A
a
lot of
lot.
time.
So we danced for a lot of time, or we danced. Much time is also correct, okay? But it's more like British. A lot of is more American English, all right?
Okay.
Then in many kilometers is okay. Then here, right, it's more complicated for us. You mentioned another verb, I don't remember, but you said that directly. But here, again, it's not going to be is, it is going to be it is or it was, right? One of those two was more complicated for us. After you say for us, you're going to say infinitive. For example, it was more complicated for us to do it. Okay, so that's going to be the structure for a person to do something. Okay, it was more complicated for you to finish the assignment. It was more complicated for her to study alone, right? It was more complicated for us to do something. That's going to be the logic, okay? For someone to do something. But that's it. That's my feedback in general. Natalia, again, it was pretty good. These details are things that we have to improve, but you were able to give me a good story in those 4 minutes and 28 seconds. And again, that's always great. All right. So I don't know if you have any questions for today. That was the practice. And that was just reviewing the first lesson that we covered, but it's important to practice also like this. I don't know if you have
Yes.
any last questions or any details to finish the class today. Let me know, please.
And no, I think I have the same. Uh, I have to correct the same topics that I have to check when I write and when I have the same mistakes when I speak and I was when I was writing, I think.
Yes, some of them, right? Some of them, but again, in general, it's pretty good. These are details that you can change, improve. Mainly this one, right? When you say for, right? For, show, for. So just try to remember. And again, a good thing if you keep doing the same mistake, try to say that to yourself, all right, a lot of times during the day. All right, to show I want to study English to travel. I want to do this to improve. I want to do that to be better. I want to travel to know the world, right? I want to do this. So try to play with that, and it's always good. It's something that few people do, but again, a good way of practicing, Natalia, is when you think of ideas in English and you repeat that throughout the day. Okay, if you do that, I'm sure you're going to be improving this. All right, good. That's it then. As always, I'm sharing the poll for today's class that you can see over there. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night, your weekend, and I'll see you on Monday to continue with the second class. All right?
Yes, thank you.
Great. No, you're
Have a
welcome.
good weekend.
Thank you. You too. See you Monday.
Bye.
Bye bye.